Yo, while you were distracted with speculation about Coinbase and BlackRock this week, the biggest Bitcoin scandal in history, I'm not even kidding when I say that, quietly went unnoticed. The Strategic Bitcoin Reserve executive order that Donald Trump signed on March 5th ordered all of the US government agencies to give us a full audit of how much Bitcoin the US Treasury holds within 30 days. Well, it's been 35 days since the executive order was signed, and we haven't heard a single thing. If you thought that the 50-year Fort Knox mystery was suspicious, what if America really doesn't have the 200,000 Bitcoin that they say they had? Well, if you think this sounds absolutely crazy or like a Twitter rumor or perhaps like a YouTube title, we're not the only ones thinking this. Senator Lummis was having these exact thoughts. In fact, we have the clip. We'll play it for you guys, and then we'll dive deep into this crazy, crazy story. In fact, when me and Opti were writing this morning, like we couldn't believe it. We were thinking about it. We're like, yo, are we actually good journalists? Anyways, let's check out the clip.
We think the United States has held about 200,000 Bitcoin in asset forfeiture. What we don't know is how much of that the Biden administration was selling right before the Trump administration took office. So we have inquiries to the U.S. Marshal Service. I have talked to Pam Bondi about it. We are trying to find.
So, I mean, sounds absolutely crazy. By the way, joining me on the show today, of course, we have my legendary co-host who's always optimistic, Optimus Fields, and the creator of UTXOracle. We have Steve in the house. So again, what are we talking about? This is crazy. What do you mean you don't know where the Bitcoin is? Like, if you compare and contrast this with El Salvador's Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, it's completely public. They publish their address. Anyone could see it for the world to see. This is some of the benefits of Bitcoin, is that anybody could audit. It's an open ledger. Anyone could see if that address has the amount of Bitcoin that that address says it does. So check this out. The El Salvador Reserve's public. We know that they have 6,143 Bitcoin. We know exactly how much Bitcoin they have, and we know how much they've been accumulating every single day. So when Nayib Bukele and the IMF got into a spat, basically, you know, the IMF was saying El Salvador can't acquire Bitcoin. Nayib Bukele says, you know what? We're going to keep going. You don't have to trust us. Check out our public reserve. You could see that we're going to keep going, right? A very, very powerful move. Now, that's in stark contrast with how the United States reserves work. We have to take for word the U.S. government that Fort Knox has the gold that it says it does. We have to take them at their word that they do have this 200,000 Bitcoin that they say they do. But they can't even account for it. Mind you, this isn't just like a Bitcoin problem. The Pentagon has failed like 6 audits in a row, and you're talking about billions and billions of dollars that are completely unaccounted for. Look at all the things that Doge uncovered. So forgive me if I don't trust you, bro. You don't really have a good track record of trust me, bro. It's kind of like trust me, bro, and then don't get upset that you're not trusting me, bro, type of situation. So check out this headline. U.S. Marshal Service can't say how much crypto it holds, complicating Bitcoin reserve plan. You heard Senator Lummis in the beginning that she believes that the Biden administration was potentially selling Bitcoin because they knew that the Trump administration was going into power, and the Trump administration had every intention of making Bitcoin a strategic reserve. So check out this headline. U.S. agencies must reveal Bitcoin and crypto holdings by April 5th. It has been nearly a month since U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order on March 6th to establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve and a digital asset stockpile. The order called for the creation of 2 strategic crypto reserves with digital assets seized by authorities as part of criminal or civil asset forfeiture proceedings. As per the order, all federal agencies are required to disclose their holdings of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies to the Secretary of Treasury within 30 days. It means that the Treasury Department and other federal agencies of the U.S. government will disclose their digital asset holdings, including Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, to the Treasury Secretary on April 5th. Guess what? It's April 11th. It's been 6 days. We haven't heard a peep. We haven't heard anything. We don't know, right? So it's not rocket science. Connect the two, right? So if there was speculation, not by us, by a U.S. Senator Cynthia Lummis, the Bitcoin senator, she's absolutely awesome. If she's basically saying, look, we suspect they're selling Bitcoin, all the agencies were essentially ordered to report how much Bitcoin the U.S. government has. It's 6 days later, we still have no idea how much Bitcoin the U.S. government has. So, and remember, it was quite interesting. All that sell pressure that was happening, the last 6 months and different places. Like we knew when Germany sold their Bitcoin and we took quite a dump. We had no idea what was happening behind the scenes. And even they have no idea, how much Bitcoin you have. I mean, it's not difficult to see how much Bitcoin you have. It really isn't. So were they selling it? I don't know. Here's the CEO of BTC Inc., the CEO of Bitcoin Magazine. He says, what would really add to the vibes right now? The results of Americans' Bitcoin audit. Again, we don't know where it is. We don't know it. But this leads me to connect this to another story that we talked about. I think it was yesterday during the news segment regarding the Coinbase stuff. So what am I talking about? BlackRock decided to use a new custodian. They are, I guess, diversifying custodians. So they were only relying on Coinbase before, and they announced that, hey, we're going to use another custodian. Now, what's really interesting about the BlackRock stuff, and we covered it on yesterday's show, is that there was a lot of rumors regarding quote unquote paper Bitcoin. So Coinbase was essentially accused of potentially selling Bitcoin to BlackRock. That's paper. They don't actually have that Bitcoin. They're just selling an IOU to it, paper Bitcoin. And this made quite a stir on Bitcoin Twitter to the point that BlackRock actually had to amend their agreement with Coinbase. And a lot of people were basically saying it was an unfounded conspiracy theory. But guess what? 6 months later, BlackRock is like, you know what? We're going to have multiple custodians. Now, this leads me to, we don't have to live in a trust me, bro situation, even with the US government. We should demand that they follow in the footsteps of Bitcoin country, which is El Salvador. Bitcoin country has all of the reserves completely public. And the reason that is so important is because it's extremely difficult for the government to do something with your money, because technically it's a government by the people for the people. It's your money if there's a lot of people looking, right? And this is what transparency is all about. We don't have to live under a trust me bro model now that we have the technology that allows a don't trust me bro verify model. So yeah, I mean, very interesting times. It's been 6 days. We should have those numbers. We should know how much Bitcoin exactly the US government has. The executive order was for April 5th. It is now April 11th. We haven't heard a peep. Nothing. Zero. Nada. It's not there. And that is interesting to say the least. And I don't know what's a bigger scandal, right? That they have less Bitcoin than they said they would, or that they were selling Bitcoin after they knew Trump won the election because they knew that Trump had no intention of selling that Bitcoin because he wanted to make it part of the strategic Bitcoin reserve. I don't know what would be a bigger scandal. And then that leads me to, listen, if El Salvador could do it, the US should be able to do it, right? There's absolutely no excuse unless you just don't like Bitcoin. Unless if you're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom, right? It's as simple as that. Bitcoin exposes incentives. This situation is no different. I'm positive the Trump administration is going to announce it, but it is very curious to me that we're 6 days late and we still have no idea how much the US government, which is accountable to the people, has on behalf of the people. Anyways, Opti, someone in the chat, are you suggesting that they lied to us? I'm not suggesting that. I'm just putting the pieces together and you guys are making your own conclusions. You guys are watching Simply Bitcoin Live. Smash that like button if you guys are enjoying today's show. I'm joined, of course, here with my legendary co-host, Optimus Fields, and Steve. Steve is the creator of UTXOracle. We're going to be talking about that during the culture segment. But before we get Steve's thoughts, Opti, I mean, we were crafting this morning for a while. We were crafting this story in the morning for a while, and we're like, oh my God, like, are we journalists? Because I think we found something. Opti, what's your take?
Yeah, well, some days we're not just propagandists. We might be journalists. Maybe we're not credentialized.
I'm not even going to allow you. I'm not even going to allow you to call us propagandists, because like there's a lot of things that the legacy media has said over the last 10 years. I don't care how much you call yourself a journalist. That was just a flat out false narrative. So no, you can't call us propagandists, man. Like if anything, the legacy media is propagandists. All we're doing is reporting the news from the Bitcoiners' perspective. Opti.
You know, I say that lovingly, Nico. You know I'm trolling when I say that. But anyways, getting back to the story here. If this is the case, like Senator Lummis was saying, if Joe Biden's last, middle finger to the U.S. was selling all of their Bitcoin, on the one hand, it would almost be like poetic. Like, I'm not going to lie. It's kind of like, yeah, of course he would do that. On the other hand, it would kind of also be like a good thing for all of us Bitcoiners, especially all the people that are like, I don't want the government to own Bitcoin. They sell 200 Bitcoin. That would probably explain why the price is where it is right now, if they did dump all of that Bitcoin. Now, on the flip side, I was kind of trolling yesterday. Of course, the macro markets right now are in meltdown. There's a lot of, we're all macro experts now because we have to be. And it looks like, China is dumping treasuries and potentially buying gold. So I was trolling, hey, look, China's stacking gold. It would be awesome if the U.S. announces that they are buying Bitcoin. Now, if this is the case and China is stacking gold and they actually hold their Bitcoin and we have no gold in Fort Knox and we have no Bitcoin, as an American, this would be very bad. Obviously, I want to stay ahead here, but we're seeing all kinds of crazy stuff. And if this is the case, it is very interesting that we don't have an audit here. Maybe they're using this global market meltdown. Like, that's the main concern, being kind of lenient here. That's probably the main concern here. But it is interesting. We haven't heard anything. You'd think by now we would have heard something. The deadline was, I think, what was it? Was that Sunday, or we should have heard something by Monday? We haven't heard anything yet. I'll be a little lenient considering like the whole global macro markets are blowing up right now and they're very concerned with bonds. But if we don't hear something soon, that is not a good sign. Now, maybe, again, being kind of gracious here, maybe this is an internal memo and they have that information, but it does sound like it was going to be public. So again, if they've sold all that Bitcoin or they don't have as much Bitcoin as they have, that probably would explain the price where we're at, and it would not be good for the narrative of the U.S. becoming the Bitcoin superpower, because now China has more Bitcoin than us, and I can already hear the FUD stories coming out. China runs Bitcoin, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So no case is good here unless we actually have all the Bitcoin we claim we have. So it's going to get crazy with the FUD narratives here. But anyways, I've been rambling enough. Let's pass it over to Simple Steve.
I kind of love this story, to be honest. Yeah, I'd kind of love it if the U.S. didn't actually have that Bitcoin. I mean, it highlights the problem of it's hard for a large-scale institution to custody Bitcoin because someone has to have the keys. So, I mean, it's not just the government. Any big company is going to have trouble proving that they have the Bitcoin that they say they have. Nacho keys, nacho cheese. I mean, I love it. It's hard for big institutions to hold Bitcoin, and that is a feature, not a bug.
100%.
And also just jumping in here, it would be, I mean, on the one hand, they're selling Bitcoin that was seized, but it would be kind of fitting if they did dump all that Bitcoin back into the market, and then, the people can acquire that much Bitcoin again. There's good sides on all of this, but yeah, I also kind of love this story, but the narrative is going to be bad either way.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Opti. Like, they're the blessing in disguise. Look, I'll go out on a limb. There's no way that this is verifiable, but I'll go out on a limb and I'll say that I don't think they have as much Bitcoin today than they did before the rumors started, going around that the previous administration was, essentially selling Bitcoin before Trump got into office. So I'll say that. And I think the silver lining, to add to Opti's point, is, when a government sells their Bitcoin, number one, they could only do it once. And number two, they're selling it back to at least a percentage as individuals, right? So that's a good thing and not a bad thing, in my opinion. So there is a silver lining to this. But yeah, I mean, what a scandal would that be? That would be a huge scandal. But I mean, there's been so many scandals the last, 2-3 years in American politics that from a Bitcoiner's perspective, this would be the biggest scandal. But like from the general events that have happened, it's it's not that big of a deal, I would say, in the grand scheme of things.
One last thing, like as a Bitcoiner, would we be surprised of government incompetence of not being able to hold the Bitcoin? It's just like, of course, this is what happens. Like this is par for the course.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Well, guys, it's going to be an incredible show. We have tons of content for you guys lined up. And of course, we have a special guest. We have Steve. Steve is the creator of UTXOracle. So we're going to be talking about that very soon. And I have a clip of you guys from the new administration, from especially the name of the position is Executive Director of the President's Council of Advisors on Digital Assets. It's part of the new administration's move to create the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Bo Hines, we have a clip of him basically saying that the administration has every intention of acquiring more Bitcoin. So it's not just about sitting on the Bitcoin that they don't know how much they have. It's also with the intention of buying more Bitcoin as well. Again, that's very positive from a number go up perspective. Then also some Trump news as well. Trump signs bill to nullify expanded IRS crypto broker rules. So we'll jump into that. And then we're going to be talking about essentially if the time allows, this whole tariff thing and the whole Doge thing, and the whole nothing stops this train, story by Lynn Alden. And we're going to be essentially talking about even with Doge, even with the best intention, the fact is that the US government is spending $2 trillion every single year, more than it collects in tax revenue. And that is completely unsustainable. The interest on the debt alone is $1 trillion. That's 1 trillion with a T. That is just to give you guys a perspective of how much money that is. The total GDP of El Salvador is 32 billion with a B, right? The interest on the debt is 1 trillion with a T, right? I don't know what 1 trillion, I don't know what 32 billion divided by 1 trillion is, but let's just say it's an enormous amount of money. And of course, this is completely unsustainable. By 2030, the interest payments alone are going to surpass the defense spending budget for the entire year. It is ridiculous. So you're seeing essentially a slow motion crash, in my opinion. And you already have a lifeboat. And of course, that lifeboat is Bitcoin. So we're going to be talking about all of that on today's show. And of course, Steve's project, UTXOracle, we're going to be focusing on that during the culture segment. So if you guys are enjoying the show so far, smash that like button. We're going to hit the numbers. We'll be right back. I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, Stampseed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed words really secure? Stampseed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of writing them down on paper. Don't do that. Paper sucks. You want to literally stamp your seed into this plate of titanium. Your words are actually stamped into the metal plate with this hammer. So once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and your pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and most importantly, because this is generational wealth, time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin for the long haul. I mean, here is the plate that they crushed. They put in water. They put a blowtorch to it. And as you can see, the words have survived. Stamp your seed on Stampseed. And you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on their store. Head over to stampseed.com today. All right, everybody, scan the QR code on your screen. Use promo code SIMPLY. Get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $82,920. Block height, 891,950. Sats per dollar, 1,206. Market cap, 1.65 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 7.25%. Percentage issued, 94.52%, decline from all-time high, negative 24.1%, realized monetary inflation, 0.86%. Before we jump into the Bo Hines clip, I do want to give a shout out to our lead sponsor, best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack, bitcoinwell.com. Enable your independence with the fastest and safest way to buy Bitcoin on-chain or via the Lightning Network in Canada and the USA. To get started, you put in your email address, takes 2 to 5 minutes to get signed up. What makes Bitcoin Well different, unique, special is that it's a completely non-custodial platform. What does that mean? That means that they don't even leave the Bitcoin on the exchange. As soon as you buy it and the funds clear, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address. For higher net worth individuals, check out Bitcoin Well Infinite. To get started, go to bitcoinwell.com/OTC. You're going to have a dedicated account representative that's going to be assigned to helping you on your Bitcoin journey. So if you're looking to buy $50,000 worth of Bitcoin or more, you have any questions or doubts about self-custody, check out bitcoinwell.com/OTC, and they will hand hold you through the process. Also, every time you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, you earn something called Bitcoin Well points, and you could use those points towards the Bitcoin Wishing Well contest. Get your Lightning wallets ready. First person to scan the QR code has won 210 sats. So scan it if you have a Lightning wallet, and if you use promo code SIMPLY when you sign up to bitcoinwell.com, you get 3 tosses into the Wishing Well, absolutely free. So let's talk about the Bo Hines clip. Bo Hines is essentially, I have this written down. I don't know where it is. Anyways, Bo Hines is the, I would just had it. I don't know where it is. What's happening with me today? Okay. Well, Bo Hines is the advisor to the Trump administration regarding digital assets, and he had something to say regarding the Trump administration's intention of buying more Bitcoin. Let's check out the clip, and then we'll talk about it.
The U.S. has already acquired about 200,000 BTC. That's worth about $17 billion. Strategy CEO Michael Saylor is suggesting that the U.S. acquire up to 25% of the Bitcoin supply by 2035. What would be the target amount for the United States in your view?
Well, you know, I get asked this question a lot, and I think the answer to that, like I said at the summit yesterday, is as much as we can possibly get, so long as it's in budget neutral ways that don't cost the taxpayer a dime. I think we have a lot of high IQ people in the building that are working on this, and folks over at the Treasury office and folks over at Commerce, working with the internal working group that was set up in the first digital assets EO. We'll be able to come up with ways to accumulate more really over the course of the next few years and beyond that. I mean, look, we view Bitcoin as being digital gold. That's why we set up the strategic Bitcoin reserve in the way that we did, right? Bitcoin is a commodity. It's not a security. As our AI and cryptos are, David Sachs likes to say, it has the immaculate conception, meaning that there's no issuer. It has intrinsic stored value that's traditionally accepted. And we feel like it's in the best interest of Americans to hold on to this asset long term and accumulate as much as we can get. That's why we've akin this to digital gold and talked about building the digital Fort Knox for the United States. And, you mentioned the Bitcoin that we have possession of. We've actually been in possession of nearly 400,000 Bitcoin. We sold roughly half of that prematurely at about, I think it was close to $370 million is what we sold it for. If we would have held on to that, it would have been worth $17 billion today. I mean, it just goes to show you how important this asset is and what we can do with it to benefit the American people. One thing that I've said repeatedly throughout the media circuit is that I think it's really nice that we have a president that's actually looking to accumulate assets for Americans rather than take it away, unlike the last regime that we had here at the White House. But we feel very confident about our plan. We feel confident about the internal working group that was set up in that first EO. And
all right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, But what if they don't have those 200,000 Bitcoin? That's the scandal, man. That's going to be bonkers. I mean, how's that news going to be broken? We'll see. Again, it's been 6 days. We still don't know how much Bitcoin the U.S. government has. The U.S. Marshals, they don't know how much Bitcoin the U.S. government has. All the agencies were supposed to have reported it on April 5th. We haven't heard a peep since then. That would be a huge, huge scandal. Think about that for a second. Let's break it down. The Trump and the Republicans got a mandate. They won the House, they won the Senate, and they won the presidency. And that was a very clear, this is a representative democracy. It's not a direct, it's not a direct democracy. So essentially, you elect a representative to essentially, vouch for your interest in government, or at least that's how it's supposed to work. Could you imagine what that would mean if, after they found out the results of the election, the previous administration was just dumping Bitcoin against the wishes of the American people? I mean, like, that would be something, right? So yeah, I mean, the narrative is right now that the U.S. government holds 200,000. Let's see what that number is, right? As someone in the chat, Marshals lost their Bitcoin in a boating accident. I think you can get away with that excuse as an individual. I don't think you can get away with that excuse.
No, Nico, it's the Marshals lost their Bitcoin in an Excel accident. That's the real meme.
Yeah, man. Like, this is crazy. Anyways, I do want to give a shout out to the stream, and then I'm going to get Steve's thoughts and then Opti's. We're on the verge of breaking 2,000 live viewers, and we have almost 600 live viewers on YouTube alone. And of course, shout out to the hardcore Rumble audience holding it down, making fun of me and Opti every single day. We absolutely love you guys and appreciate you guys. Mikkel in the chat. Opti, could you put that up? Oh, Opti's consigliere. Brian Armstrong, come out and play. Brian Armstrong, come out and play. Opti's consigliere. What did he say? I want to see what Opti's consigliere. Opti's consigliere says there's a difference between having sold it, been stolen, or lost the keys. Anything is possible. True. How convenient would it be if they lost the keys? Again, we haven't seen the gold in Fort Knox since the 1970s, and there was just one video of one vault. And none of that gold was taken out. It was just a video of just the vault. So it's kind of like a trust me, bro. But think about it. If you think about it, it's kind of the same thing, right? Fort Knox was constructed because FDR issued an executive order making it illegal for Americans to own gold. And apparently all the gold the theory was for all that gold to be housed in Fort Knox. Since the 1930s, we've essentially been taking their word for it. We've been taking their word for on a lot of things. I mean, I don't think that gold is there. And I don't think they have as much Bitcoin as they say they do. I think some of that Bitcoin, could have been sold. And if in the Social Security database, there's people that are collecting Social Security and they're 360 years old, older than the country itself, I mean, like, you're talking about a lot of Bitcoin. You're talking about 200,000 Bitcoin. Isn't it convenient that it's lost? Could you imagine if you told the IRS the same thing? You'd be put in prison, right? So, again, it's like a different set of standards here, and I think that's wrong. Anyways, Opti, what's your take on all this?
Let's go to Steve.
Let's go with Steve. We just broke 2,000 live viewers. Glad you guys are enjoying the stream. Steve.
What about the government not having the Bitcoin, or about that other guy?
It seems like this topic does not. Steve is not interested in this topic at all. It's hilarious. Like a true Bitcoiner.
Same topic,
like a true Bitcoiner. Yeah. Like a true Bitcoiner. Let me rephrase the question then. Okay. How hard would it be to How hard is it? It shouldn't be this hard for the government to know how much Bitcoin they have. Is it?
Dude, it's really hard. I mean, if you don't hold your own keys, you have no idea how much Bitcoin you have. That's really hard. But I did like the second guy that you played, because he looked like he at least cared a little more. And obviously, Cynthia Lummis really cares. I feel like you can kind of tell the people in the government that actually really care about this and want to hold Bitcoin, and the people that are just kind of BSing. I mean, fiat money is a hard problem. You know, it's like a mind virus where you can just kind of make stuff up. You can print money, and Bitcoin is the real thing. And so you have to be kind of a real person, and for it to really work. So yeah, I don't have much hope for any large institution, including the government, successfully holding Bitcoin.
100%. Opti, what's your take on this? I love Steve's just like, you know what, bro? Like, I feel you. This is interesting, but honestly, it's about individuals holding Bitcoin. I can care less what the U.S. government is doing or what their intention is. This is a very Bitcoin response, right? Anyways, Opti, what's your take on all this, bro?
Well, given the first article here, the second one does just kind of sound hilarious. Like if they don't actually have the Bitcoin, it's kind of nuts to see Bo Hines go out there and be like, yeah, we have 200,000 Bitcoin. Actually, you know, we had 400,000, but we sold 200,000. And then he's going to run out and going to be like, actually, we have 0 Bitcoin. And this would be a bigger fumble than what we saw the German government do by selling their 50,000 Bitcoin. So I don't know. I'm kind of like, as much as, you know, you want to see America be the Bitcoin superpower in regards to just like favorable regulation, this is the true separation of money and state. We were talking about it when Germany dumped their coin. Hey, if, you know, governments can't hold on to their Bitcoin, they're just like everyone else. So the narrative sounds good. They are losing a lot of money by selling their Bitcoin, but hey, you know, cheaper sats for everyone else. So we'll see what happens.
100% agree with that take, bro. And let's see. It would be a scandal. You know what? The thing is, like, with all the scandals that have happened, you know what? I have to pull this up so you guys could check out what I'm talking about. Because like, it's just crazy. Let me pull this up. The thing is, it would be a scandal, but we've just normalized this. Like, I think Steve said something very wise, which is like, fiat money is like a mind virus. It's like, you know, it just normalizes this type of thing. And I think the reason it normalizes it is because I think whether you're conscious of it or not, if you work in government, you know that this money comes out of thin air. And if you know that money, if you know on a subconscious level that money comes out of thin air, you're a lot. You're just like, all right, you know what? It's $1 billion. Who cares? Like, $1 billion would fundamentally change the lives of I don't know how many Americans. Like, it would be a game changer. Imagine all the money that we spent in the Iraq and Afghanistan war, which are like trillions and trillions of dollars. Imagine if that money was used to build up things here in the US. It would be totally different. And I would say it would be much more beneficial. Anyways, so check out this headline. Pentagon fails 7th audit in a row, eyes passing grade by 2028. And let's take a look at this. The annual audit is conducted by the DoD's Office of Inspector General, along with an independent public accounting firm that examined $4.1 trillion in assets and $4.3 trillion in liabilities. This year's report provides opinions on 28 entities ranging from the various services to the Military Retirement Fund, one fewer than last year. In total, 9 entities have so far received an unmodified audit opinion. It goes on to say, so far, the remaining 15 entities received a failing grade. So it's a $4.1 trillion in assets, and you know they don't know where things are. Like, how convenient is that? And then it's also really convenient that a lot of these politicians that are supposedly on government salaries are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, right? This is all convenience, right? This is just convenience, But I do want to show the debt clock. I don't know if I've showed it off yet. Here it is. So if you take a look at this, the U.S. national debt, $36 trillion per taxpayer. That'd be $323,000 each. Do you have $323,000 lying around? And this is with Doge. And look at how much pushback they've gotten with Doge. Like, Doge has been attacked left and right, and every single thing has been used to attack Doge. Doge has so far, with everything thrown against it, has been able to cut $305 billion with a B. The deficit this year alone is going to be $2 trillion. So yeah, it's just a drop in the bucket.
I thought those Doge cuts were higher. What's going on here?
I mean,
Rip.
Elon's goal is for it to get to 1 trillion, but I mean, with the amount of political pushback, I mean, I think it's going to be very, very difficult for him to get there. Anyways, so someone in the chat says show unfunded liabilities. Where is that? Help us find where that
Isn't
is.
it? It's bottom right. Like, I think it's the very bottom one. No. Like right there. Is it that last one?
Sort of amazing how prices have been as stable as they have been for the past like decade or so, given how much money has been printed and how much debt we have. Like if you're familiar with Jeff Booth deflationary hypothesis, like if we were on a sound money standard, everything would be so cheap right now. Like it just shows you how much improvement has actually happened, that there's been this much money printing and prices have only doubled.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, man. Dude, this is gnarly. This is why we Bitcoin. Save yourself, opt out of this system. I think things are just going to get worse from here. You already kind of see the political divide. And I think that's fueled I think the instability with politics right now, I think is fueled by people knowing inherently that the system is broken, but they have different types of solutions to it. I don't think that solution is inherently political in the traditional sense about vote harder, daddy. I think it's about fixing the money. You fix the money, you fix the world. But again, the people that benefit from the awesome power of being able to create money for free that everyone else has to work for, I think are going to fight tooth and nail to protect their interests. So yeah, this is pretty gnarly, everybody. Let's move on to the next segment. We're going to be talking about the news, and we'll be right back. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Casa. Bitcoin security matters, but managing private keys can sometimes be complicated, especially multi-sig. What if you can secure your Bitcoin without worrying about losing a seed phrase or giving up custody? With Casa, you can completely control your Bitcoin with multi-key security, so even if one key is lost or stolen, your funds stay safe. No single point of failure, no stress. That's what I absolutely love about these guys. They make taking Bitcoin into self-custody incredibly easy with their best in industry user experience through their app. I've been personally recommending Casa for years now to my friends and family because they will get all the benefits of multi-key self-custody security without the hassle of having to learn complicated UI. And if you're thinking of one day passing on your Bitcoin to the next generation, their inheritance plan has you covered. Also, if you're a business looking to add Bitcoin to your treasury, do it the secure way with Casa for Business. To get started, go to casa.io today and get 5% off Casa Standard or Casa Premium with promo code SIMPLY. I want to give a shout out to our partner, CoinKite. If you take your Bitcoin security seriously, you'll need the best Bitcoin hardware wallet on the market to take self-custody. That's where Cold Card comes in. The Cold Card Q is the most advanced Bitcoin signing device ever made. It's got a full keyboard, larger screen, and NFC support, making air-gap signing easier than ever. It's built for power users who want the ultimate security without sacrificing usability. And if you're looking for a battle-tested, uncompromising cold storage, the Cold Card MK4 is your go-to with PSPT signing, an industrial-grade secure element, and USB-C. It's the perfect blend of security and convenience. Both devices are, of course, 100% Bitcoin only, open source, and built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners. Secure your Bitcoin the right way with the Cold Card Q and the MK4. Head over to coldcard.com today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 5% off anything on the store. All right, everybody, this is Opti. And you won't get 5% off Opti, but you will get 5% off the Cold Card, any of the MK4 or the Q or the Block Clock if you use promo code SIMPLY. Head over to the coldcard.com store today. Again, look at Opti modeling it. Beautiful, beautiful Opti. Opti, could you show the back, please?
Sorry,
that's the back of the Cold Card Q that Opti was wiping. Yes, guys, it's the best hardware wallet in the game. Scan the QR code on your screen. Get yourself a cold card today. Not your keys, not your cheese. We heard Steve say it earlier. It's extremely true. Promo code simply 5% off. All right, everybody, let's jump into today's news story. Trump signs bill to nullify expanded IRS crypto broker rule. U.S. President Donald Trump on Thursday signed into law a bill to overturn a revised rule from the IRS that expanded the definition of a broker to include decentralized cryptocurrency exchanges. In the last weeks of the Biden administration in December, the IRS updated its crypto tax reporting rule that it had finalized earlier in 2024 to clarify that its new guidelines would also apply to decentralized finance. Both the House of Representatives and Senate in March voted to nullify the revision through the Congressional Review Act, which allows Congress to reverse new federal rules with a simple majority. The cryptocurrency industry has slammed the revised rule, claiming that it was unworkable for DeFi platforms and called on Republicans to rescind it. Centralized exchanges such as COINBASE and Kraken act as the intermediaries between buyers and sellers, while DeFi exchanges aim to cut out the middleman and allow users to transact directly on the blockchain. Anyways, none of that is like specifically Bitcoin related stuff. However, I will say that, I think the Trump administration continues to show that it is very positive towards the industry. The second thing I'll point out here on this article, it says the new IRS framework finalized last year aimed to crack down on crypto users who may be failing to pay their taxes, and stemmed from the $1 trillion bipartisan 2021 Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. It required digital asset brokers to send forms to both the IRS and digital asset holders to assist with their tax preparation. So quite interesting. I think removing the red tape, like what a lot of people, like if you put, we're not that type of show, but if you put like the kind of tax obligations aside from individuals, the obligations that this puts on companies, right? Like this is just another expense that the company has to comply with to essentially, remain following the law, right? Which again increases the barrier to entry because it makes it more difficult to run a company, less companies, less people employed, more people dependent on government, right? So, I think this is a good thing overall. The next next article I found out, which I thought was really interesting, which was an article written by Bitcoin Magazine. The author is Ghaffar Hussain. He says, why Trump's tariffs can't fix the broken system. The Trump tariffs will not revitalize the American economy like he thinks, but maybe Bitcoin can help where tariffs can't. It goes on to say, Trump's America First platform, which he built his successful campaign around, promised to reconfigure global trade in favor of the U.S. This involved encouraging businesses to manufacture domestically, bring jobs, industry, prosperity back to parts of the country that liberalized trade, and outsourcing left behind. The U.S. had, or so the argument goes, become more and more reliant on competitively priced imports that were often manufactured by countries where labor and transportation is much cheaper. This led to the emergence of Rust Belt states in which blue-collar workers saw their living standards decline, while the cities they lived in were hollowed out. The chosen tactic for the grand economic configuration, it seems, is trade tariffs. By imposing tariffs on foreign goods, especially Chinese imports, Trump hopes to make it more expensive for consumers to buy products that are made abroad and for companies to outsource manufacturing. This, he claims, will breathe life back into the U.S. industrial heartland and make the country more self-sufficient in times of crisis. It will also reduce the trade deficit, making the U.S. less vulnerable to currency manipulation. He goes on to say, however, not only do tariffs have serious economic drawbacks that make their success uncertain, they also fail to address the root cause of the problem. Tariffs are essentially taxes on imported goods, and while they may benefit some domestic producers in the short term by making foreign goods more expensive, they also increase the cost of imports for U.S. consumers and businesses. These higher costs, combined with potential retaliatory tariffs from trading partners, could hurt U.S. consumers who would face higher prices on a range of goods, from electronics to clothing, which would hurt economic growth. In fact, China has already announced a retaliatory tariff of 34%, and they are even considering not enforcing U.S. intellectual property rights, which could have a devastating impact on U.S. businesses. So it goes on to say, furthermore, it is not possible to simply revitalize domestic industry overnight after decades of outsourcing. High-quality manufacturing requires significant investment in machinery, skilled workers, and infrastructure, all of which has been in steep decline in the U.S., while countries like China have been forging ahead. The real challenge facing the U.S. economy could be traced back to a much deeper issue: the decoupling of the U.S. dollar from the gold standard in 1971. Before this, the U.S. dollar was tied to gold, meaning the government could only issue as much currency as it had in its reserves. This system imposed natural limits on money supply and kept inflation under control. When President Nixon ended the dollar's convertibility into gold, it allowed the U.S. government to print money freely without any backing, leading to the rise of fiat currencies. It goes on to say, what the U.S. really needs is an alternative to fiat, a form of currency whose value is determined by market forces rather than government policy. Such a currency can provide a hedge against the inflationary pressures that have been exacerbated by decades of fiat monetary policy. It can also cultivate the conditions for fairer trade and stabilize the global economy by providing an alternative store of value that is free from the whims of central banks, traditional banking systems, and currency exchanges. Fortunately, such a currency does exist in the form of Bitcoin. The Trump tariffs are unlikely to achieve the desired goals of revitalizing the Rust Belt or solving the deeper systemic problems within the American economy. This is because they do not address the core issue that has led to a decline in living standards, namely inflationary pressures caused by fiat currency and constant money printing. To address these challenges, a fundamental shift in the way we approach monetary policy may be necessary, and in Bitcoin, with its decentralized nature and limited supply, there is now a viable alternative. I mean, I completely agree with that. And the reason for that is simple, right? Like,
I think we lost him.
Oh,
Wow.
you
that
lost me for
Puerto-
a while. Okay, good.
Yeah. Oh, he's back. Are you back? Dude, that you need a generator over there. That Puerto Rican internet's whack. Wow. I don't know where Nico was going with this, but anyways, I really want to kind of take it back to that original Reuters report here, and I'm gonna pull up and default to.
There we
Is
go.
he back? Is he back?
Sorry, guys. A little bit of a spotty internet here in Puerto Rico.
Bro, you got to get out of there.
It's a beautiful island, but I'll be back in my home studio, Miami, in a couple weeks or so after I make a pit stop in El Salvador. Yes, so just to kind of address that article and the general like theory and the general idea of it, you can start bettering your financial life. You could start bettering your financial life today, and you don't have to wait for a politician to solve the problem. I think inherently what people have to understand is the base layer of society is fundamentally broken. Money is fundamentally broken. And if you're just trying to get by, if you're just trying to live and to make it, it's incredibly difficult to just live with these inflationary pressures. Like, people don't like, yes, like the official inflation rate, it's 2, 3, 4%. But in reality, it's really been like 10%, right? If you live on a Bitcoin standard today, even if you're middle class, everything around you will get cheaper. And this is the case that we've been making for you guys for a long time now. We need to go get a battery backup. I should, right? We've shown you guys this website multiple times called Price in Bitcoin. I'm trying to pull it up in the background. Let's see if it pulls up. But essentially, all it does is it prices things like gold, like food, like the cost of eggs. We hear that as a political talking point all the time. And you'll see that everything else, everything gets cheaper as it relates to Bitcoin over time. So doesn't that solve the issue versus this very top-down government approach to solving the problem? Like, I would make the case that the reason the middle class was absolutely gutted here in the US is because of fiat. I would make the case that that is the cause, not like, yes, outsourcing. I think all of that is a symptom. But I think the reason that the middle class, go ahead, Steve, you want to add to that?
Say, the reason we don't have the middle class is absolutely because of fiat. There's no question about that.
You want to elaborate a little bit?
I mean, if you print money like they do, then assets just become crazy expensive. And that means that people who already own houses and already own assets just get wealthier and wealthier. And the people that are living on a paycheck, because their paycheck doesn't keep up with asset inflation, they just get poorer and poorer. So, I mean, that just like naturally spreads out the wealth gap. I don't think there's any question about that.
Yeah, 100%. No, and I completely agree with you. I think this is a symptom. I think that what you're watching, what you're seeing is a symptom of the problem. And yeah, I 100% agree. Opti, do you have any thoughts on what Steve was saying? I mean, I think a lot of people are just getting distracted with the whole tariffs thing. And again, I think this like whole top-down approach to fix, I mean, you can't like, it's very difficult to criticize the attempt, right? Because it's like, it's a noble attempt. Like what Doge is doing is it's noble. It's trying to cut government spending. Let's give the power back to the middle class. It's a noble attempt. But I think we had Shadowbite says, I mean, this isn't really surprising, TBH. Appreciate the $2, dude. But it is a noble attempt. Like you can't deny that it's not a noble attempt. But what I will say is like it doesn't address the root cause of a lot of this, as Steve was saying. And the root cause is the government has the ability to create money for free that everyone else has to work for. And that leads to massive wealth inequality. And that leads to a concentration of wealth, not only within the government, but also the top percentiles. Because their assets get, there's asset appreciation every time they debase the currency. So, Opti, do you want to add to that before we hit the culture segment and talk to Steve about what he's working on these days?
No, I don't really want to add to the second news topic, but I do kind of want to add to the first news topic, and I'm going to just pull some sources here up on Twitter. Shouts out to Lola Leach. She's behind The Rage. I highly suggest you guys go check it out at The Rage Tech on Twitter. And she goes, the broker rule is officially dead. No mandatory KYC for non-custodial services, at least from the IRS. This is a major win for privacy. So huge news. And then Kaye Bitcoin or Cali Bitcoin, he's behind the eCash stuff, or sorry, Cashew. Wait, is it Cashew? Anyways, he says, since privacy is now legal again, we're going to have to ship subversive Bitcoin technology as hard as we can for the next 4 years. So that's the takeaway here, guys. Again, it looks like we might be having some favorable stuff happen in the U.S. I'm pretty excited for this. This is good news. So let's go into the culture, because I am super excited to talk with Steve about what he built. I was asking him a bunch of questions before the show. I was telling him I saw this on Twitter like 3 days ago, and I don't know if I was tired when I looked at it, but I could not make sense of what I was looking at. So I'm glad that we can do this live, and I think this is really cool. So hit the transition, Nico. Let's get into it.
All right, everybody. We're going to hit the culture segment. We have tons to talk about. We'll be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technology. Why HIVE in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's position to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, HIVE's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com.
Need liquidity without having to sell your Bitcoin?
For more than 6 years now, Ledin has been the trusted choice for Bitcoin-backed lending with transparency, security, and trust at their core. I absolutely love these guys, and I personally have not only an account with them, but also a loan. And some of the key features that I love about Ledin is the fact that there are no monthly payments. You pay at the end of the term. You also have the ability to roll over the loan as well, and you can pay it back whenever you want. Essentially, what they do is that they help their clients unlock the liquidity of their BTC, allowing you to hodl while still accessing the wealth of your Bitcoin. They've been battle tested with their focus on transparency, security, and trust, allowing them to build a proven track record of client success and security, helping tens of thousands of clients harness the value of their digital assets with confidence and peace of mind. Learn more about what your BTC can do for you. Check out ledin.io today.
All right.
We
All
back.
right. We're back. Okay, Steve. I'm just gonna rip the Band-Aid off. What are we looking at here? What is UTXOracle? What is this? And I'll zoom in so people and it didn't crash on us, so that's awesome. What is this? What are we looking at here? Explain this to the people. What is UTXOracle?
UTXOracle is kind of a big deal, man. UTXOracle is the discovery that the Bitcoin price is on chain. No one kind of thought this was possible, and the Bitcoin price being on chain in a big way, like it is it's important for a couple reasons, and that towards a solution toward the Oracle problem. This is the decentralized price of Bitcoin. People are normally familiar with checking their price using like an app, or you going to an exchange or a website, coinmarketcap.com, CoinGecko. You know, you guys were showing the price from Clark Moody's dashboard earlier. Clark Moody's dashboard, just like all these other websites, just has some API on the back end, and they're just contacting an exchange or contacting a couple of different exchanges and getting an average or something. So these are third-party ways of getting the Bitcoin price. UTXOracle is the breakthrough that the Bitcoin price is directly on chain. You can get the Bitcoin price directly from your node, and not just from somebody just writing the Bitcoin price as some memo returning a transaction, but by actually monitoring all Bitcoin transactions at the same time and looking for these clusters where people send round amounts of dollars. Not to get too technical, but it's pretty simple. If you just think about somebody spending exactly $100, if you know that somebody was spending exactly $100 in a Bitcoin transaction, all you have to do to find out what price they used is divide $100 by how much Bitcoin they sent. It is that simple. I'm Simple Steve, so it has to have the Simple Steve property in order for me to work on stuff. So
this is so freaking cool, bro. I didn't even know this existed. Hold on. How is this even possible, bro? This is ridiculous.
This is kind of a big deal. I think people are.
So you're like a billionaire, right? You're like going to be like
yeah, right.
Well, dude, I'm so grateful to like have you on the show before you become like world famous, because this is ridiculous. Okay, so hold on. I have so many questions. Sure. I'm sorry, Opti.
Go for it. I asked him before the show, so I have some stuff to fill in the gaps. But go, Nico, do it live. It's better if you ask questions.
I am mind blown right now. Okay, hold on. So what you're saying is you have somehow managed to get the price of Bitcoin using information from the blockchain rather than information from exchanges. You have there is no information from exchanges used in that dashboard that we're looking at.
Absolutely none. That is 100% on-chain data.
Oh my God, dude. Okay, how did you do that?
It's like I just said. So I've been rendering UTXO heat maps for 10 years now. So I've been in this game for a long time, and I noticed a while ago that people were sending round amounts of US dollars, like specifically $100, $50, $20, $1,000, and just really high quantities, way more than any other random amount. And then I was like looking at it closer and I was like, wait, if I know that they're sending exactly $100 and I know how much Bitcoin they sent, then the price that they use to send that $100 is just $100 divided by the Bitcoin. And I was like, so I just need to zoom in here and I just need to divide every transaction by $100. And you'll see that this massive cluster appears right there, because those transactions are people sending all random amounts. I'm not hiding. I mean, I'm doing a little bit of filtering for like ordinal stuff and perfectly round amounts of Bitcoin, but everything else, I'm just plotting all the data and the price just emerges itself. Like I don't do anything to calculate that price. It those are just people sending exactly $100, exactly $50, exactly $1,000 just right now. Like that mempool is perfectly live. And you can see every few seconds somebody sends a round amount of US dollars. And every time they send a round amount of US dollars, they had to use some price in order to figure out how much Bitcoin that was. So all the prices of all the exchanges all around the world that are all going into people making round US dollar Bitcoin transactions, all of that information is getting collected here. And it's 100% on chain. Everybody can like pull this data out of their node. Everybody gets the exact same price, totally decentralized. There's a version of this that's open source. Obviously, I haven't open sourced the YouTube stream of it. But next week, I'm going to work on open sourcing more of the visualizations. But yeah, UTXO.pro and the open source code just to get like the average price is already there. It just doesn't have like pretty visuals right now.
Dude, this is effing amazing. Congratulations. This is enormous, bro. This is massive.
It is.
And it was clever how you went about it. And I'm just thinking about it. I was like, yeah, I've sent $100 worth of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's so, I mean, but wouldn't you say though that it was like, because like, and just like I'm like kind of recollecting, like I remember, Opti, you remember these days when $100 used to get you 1,000,000 sats?
The good old days.
Yeah.
And I remember I would just like smash buy. Like everyone in the chat, like, holy cow, this is huge. I remember I would like smash buy, like $100 on none of the Bitcoin only exchanges existed back then, but I would just smash by like $100, because $100 would equal 1,000,000 sats. And I remember, and for me in my mind, I was like, it's $100, right? I wasn't saying it's $120. I wouldn't say it's $80. I would say it's $100. So this is genius, man. This is great. It's Thanks, great man. To have met you before you become world famous and a billionaire, so we could actually get you on the show. But dude, this is incredible.
It's kind of I don't know if I'll become rich. I'm still thinking about business models that I can make. If anybody out there has like a business idea for this, and I'm not a billionaire, but I have a little extra money. If somebody wants to start a business about this, just get in touch with me. I'm not gonna like sue you or anything, but like I'm interested in joining you if you have a business idea for this. So yeah, I mean, code's open source.
That's awesome.
We have a couple questions in the in the chat here. So one is by Psycho, and he says, is there an API to UTXOracle, or you said it's open source, so maybe you plug your own node in? What's the mechanic? How can people use this?
Well, yeah, right now it's live streaming on YouTube, and you can get to that link through UTXO.pro. In terms of an API, it's more like I'm going deeper than that. I'm going to give people the opportunity to run this directly from their own node, so they don't have to contact me at all. I am kind of a purist in that way. Like I want this to be kind of the default price, because if there's anything that makes sense to be the default price of Bitcoin, it's this, because it's the price that it's on chain. It's the price that everyone can get independently. So if I start providing an API for people, I mean, maybe I will eventually, but right now I'm focused on getting people, one, in the YouTube chat so that they can like see this and talk about it just like you guys do, and two, like people actually running this code like from their node so they can see that it's real and that it's all the same.
Awesome. And then there's some questions around the $100. So, or maybe it's this kind of like a comment, but it's kind of a question. So RL goes, oh, okay. So that's the assumption then that people are sending round amounts in dollars or their currency of choice and not a round amount of sats. But you did tell me before the show, you did consider, you know, round amount of sats, like 1 million, 100,000 sats, et cetera, et cetera. So you want to comment on this?
Yes. So people send round amounts of sats and very high frequency as well. People send exactly 0.001 Bitcoin a lot. I filter out those. Not that I have to, just because if I didn't, you'd see a lot of straight lines in addition to the price line in there. It just makes the price come through cleaner. But people have started to send round amounts of dollars more than they send in round amounts of Bitcoin. This changed in about 2017, 2018. It used to be the case that people just sent round amounts of Bitcoin. I mean, before 2013, we didn't really even have a price. But around 2020, people started sending round US dollars more than round Bitcoin, if that answers the question. But I do also remove perfectly round Bitcoin just for the visualization, really. And it doesn't really affect the price. I mean, yes, this assumption is that people spend round dollars all the time. And guess what? It's a great freaking assumption. It happens multiple times a second. Look at those dots flowing in on the right. I mean, people send round US dollars all the time. There's like 25,000 round US dollar transactions every day. So good luck stopping that. I mean, you could buy up all the block space if you want. But other than that, you're not going to stop this signal.
Love it. And we have like another question, but I'm going to tackle in my own question in here. So Buck50 2000 goes, talk to me like I'm 5. How can I use this to my advantage? And I'm going to add on top of this, is this price, in your opinion, more accurate than what you see on exchanges?
What you see on exchanges, it's pretty much exactly the same. I mean, on that website, UTXO.pro, if you scroll down a little bit, I show you the comparison between this thing and COINBASE over the years. So I've back tested this. I've basically just replayed the blockchain and I've showed you the average price that it gets. It's pretty much perfectly, you know, within the range of the variance of the exchanges themselves. But the thing about the exchanges is that the exchange is sort of the price of paper Bitcoin. You know, we were talking earlier about the government not actually holding their Bitcoin. People that buy Bitcoin on Coinbase and leave it on an exchange. I mean, is that the price of Bitcoin or is that the price of paper Bitcoin? The way you know that it's real Bitcoin is when somebody makes a withdrawal. You know, when somebody makes a Bitcoin transaction, that is the price of actual Bitcoin being traded. So people always ask me like, oh, how's this compared to the real price? And I'm like, this kind of is like, the real price. Which one is
the real price?
Yeah, it's like, are we talking about the price of paper Bitcoin, or are we talking about actually settled transactions? These are actually settled transactions.
Absolutely incredible. All right, one more question from my end, and then we can, you know, give you a last plug, etc. But you said earlier, and I think it'd be a missed opportunity if we don't expand on this, but you said this might be a fix to the Oracle problem in regards to the price. Could you explain this a little more for people?
Yeah, so a long-standing problem in Bitcoin is the Oracle problem. How do you, if you need the price of Bitcoin to settle a contract, either with you know, somebody you make a deal with, or a futures contract, options contract, it's kind of like the decentralized Oracle problem is like, how do you trust the person that tells you what the price is to settle the contract? This is a way of it's, I won't say it is the solution, but I'm kind of pretty sure it's the solution. This solves the Oracle problem by providing an open source code where everybody gets the exact same price from the blockchain. So everyone, you don't have to trust anybody. Everyone can get the price themselves. It's a perfectly accurate price. And so, I mean, it's, I don't know. I don't want to say it's the solution, but it's really close to the solution to the Oracle problem.
This is fucking badass, man. Good for you. This is really cool. I love Bitcoiners. Opti and I get surprised all the time. When we have people on the culture segment, you just have Bitcoiners working on so much cool stuff, and you guys get to see Nico's live reaction every time. And this is incredibly awesome, man. It's really cool how you are able to use your 10 years of experience, just analyzing essentially the Bitcoin blockchain and putting in some variables in there to give you data, which is so incredibly awesome. And just go ahead.
I was just going to answer one of the questions. Good question in the chat was, this is just a derivative of the average price on exchanges. Exactly. That is exactly right. But ask yourself, what is the best way to average all of the prices on all the different exchanges? If you were given that problem, how would you do it? The way this one does it is it averages all the prices on all the exchanges to the extent that that price was used in making an on-chain transaction. It's a very natural and elegant average of all the prices out there.
Yeah. No, this is super cool, man.
And I want to add one thing, because like I think Steve also kind of proved a point that a lot of us Bitcoiners say about the Bitcoin time chain or the blockchain in general. It's like, this is the only real data in the world. And like, if you're not basing everything you're doing around the only true data in the world that isn't manipulated is the Bitcoin time chain, like you're completely lost, and you're using the real-time on-chain metrics to get the price. And I think this is just a beautiful example of that. Like the time chain, data on-chain data is the only real data in the world right now. And you figured out a way to get the price just straight from the data. I think that's incredible.
Yeah, thanks.
100%. Well, dude, first of all, thank you for coming on the show. This is incredibly awesome. Sharing this, and just to kind of tie in with what we were talking about in the beginning, like look at all the things that you can do with the public ledger. There should be absolutely no excuses if you are a public entity or a government as to why you can't show your reserves. If you could pull off this type of ingenuity and innovation with just the data available to you, there's no excuse, and this applies to some exchanges have been better than others in this regard, but the most awesome part about Bitcoin is its public ledger, right? It's you don't have to trust people. It's not a trust me, bro, and that's okay, because a lot of people are like, "What do you mean you don't trust me?" It's like, I think it'd just be a better world if it's less trust me, bro, and more don't trust, verify, bro, type of world, So, Steve, thank you so much for coming on, bro. Really appreciate it. Incredibly freaking awesome what it is you're working on. Opti, did you want to say something?
Yeah. Last thing before Steve signs off, will you plug the website? And then our boy Jacob is a huge fan of something else that you do, so let's plug that before we sign off today.
Oh yeah, so the website is UTXO.pro. You can also just find UTXOracle on YouTube. And yeah, the reason I know about Simply is my boy Jacob works for you guys, and we met at the Raleigh Bitcoin meetup. So come out and see us. We kind of have a bar here, Crafty, where we have our meetups at. So if you're in Raleigh, North Carolina, look up meetup.com Raleigh Bitcoin meetup and come check us out.
Super cool.
Let's
dude, thank you for coming on the show, guys. Before we sign out, I do want to give extremely special shout out to Simply Bitcoin's lead sponsor. I mean, not lead sponsor, Simply Bitcoin's sponsor. Sorry, guys. It's Friday. I'm tired. They're not the lead sponsor. Bitcoin Well is the lead sponsor. Best place to build your Bitcoin stack. But Simply Bitcoin's conference sponsor, Bitcoin 2025. It's the biggest Bitcoin conference. That's why I said biggest. Okay. It's the biggest Bitcoin conference of the year. It's in Las Vegas, Nevada. I call it Bitcoin Super Bowl weekend because you'll have the biggest non-Bitcoin speakers. Like last year, we had President Trump. They've already announced some pretty crazy ones this year. Let me see if they put them on the program as of yet.
Oh, Hines, David Sachs.
Ross Ulbricht is going to be making an in-person appearance this year. You had Bo Hines, of course, we talked about him today. David Sachs, Senator Lummis, of course, Michael Saylor, Lynn Alden.
Yeah, they're going to get the astronaut. Let's go. What was he? F2 pool, I think it was.
Chun Wang. You have Cameron and
for
Tyler
all the flat earthers, you can ask him whether the space is real.
Yeah. So this is, dude, it's going to be an awesome. I mean, Ross, bro, look at that. Look at that. Freedom fighter. Hell yeah. Freedom winner, dude. So you guys definitely don't want to miss this Bitcoin conference. It's going to be awesome. Again, Las Vegas, Nevada, May 27th through the 29th. Embrace Game Theory. It's going to be called. You can use promo code SIMPLY to get 10% off. You definitely don't want to miss this. The entire Simply Bitcoin crew, we will be there. We will have a booth. We will be making content from the conference floor. We hope to see you guys there. We love you all. We appreciate you all. Thank you guys so much for tuning into Simply Bitcoin this week. This show would not be possible without you guys. Smash the like button. Consider subscribing. Share the content. We love you all. I'm your host, Nico. It's my legendary co-host, who's mostly optimistic, Optimus Fields.
Hey, and I'm human here too, Nico. I'm still human here as well. Okay.
And our special guest, shadowy super coder genius, Steve, who's doing some awesome things with the on-chain data. Appreciate you, Steve. Thank you for coming on. Guys, we love you all. Go outside, touch some grass, touch some sand, eat some steaks, enjoy your family, and we'll see you Monday for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.